What is the best way to get out of debt, to eliminate debt? Okay. It happens to be the way that most Americans, I think, are duped into getting out of debt, but it's good. But it's a far cry from the better and the best way to get out of debt and come out way ahead of just the good way. But you have to understand how money works. And a lot of Americans, bless their hearts, they don't ever take time to learn about how money works and why business owners are very happy to pay interest, just like banks and credit unions pay interest. Why? Because they're benevolent institutions? No, because they know they're going to make more than what they're paying. If they stop paying interest, they would wither up and die. You're going to learn right now why a bank or credit union or an insurance company's greatest asset is their liabilities. So I'm Doug Andrew. I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for more than 5 decades, helping thousands of Americans optimize their assets, minimize taxes, and empower what I call their authentic wealth. And it's amazing how many people, when they hear me start to teach what I'm about to teach in this episode, that they immediately say, well, that doesn't work for most Americans. That doesn't make sense. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Fine. I'm not here to twist your arm to do anything, but if you did the math, you would be shocked, and I'm about to do the math for you. Then you can choose, okay? But if you choose just the good way, you're giving up hundreds of thousands of dollars that you could otherwise have if you continue to just do the way that most Americans do, following the herd to get out of debt, okay? So when we talk about out of debt, first of all, it would behoove us to define what out of debt means. Now, most Americans are simple. They say, well, that means you don't owe anybody anything. Okay. My definition is a little bit different, and it's the same definition that most savvy business owners have and multimillionaires have, okay? My definition about a debt is this. When I have enough liquid assets that's in a safe environment over here, so to speak, in this right-hand pocket, let's say, that anytime with an electronic funds transfer or phone call, I could transfer out some of the money in this right-hand pocket and pay off all the debt or liabilities in this pocket, I consider myself out of, over and above debt, okay? Now, you're gonna see why many very wealthy people keep their personal residence and their real estate mortgaged to the hilt. Did you hear that? Why? I had an employee come to work with me years ago, and she had just been the relationship manager at a major bank for high net worth individuals. And when she came and she read my book, she says, now I totally get it. What always perplexed her is that her high net worth customers would come in to apply for loans, or they would refinance their real estate and their house every 2 or 3 years to the maximum amount they could. And she would go, why are you coming here to borrow money? You have the money. You could have your house totally paid off. Why are you mortgaging it? And they would look at her like, well, bless your heart. You don't understand how money works, okay? Why it behooves you to pay interest sometimes when it's actually an asset instead of a liability. You're making double or triple the cost of borrowing money. And she couldn't get that because she had been taught, oh, just get out of debt and then start making money. Well, I'm about to show you that there's smart and quick ways to get out of debt. There's smarter and quicker ways, but the smartest and quickest way to eliminate debt is not any way, shape, or form sending extra principal payments against your mortgages, especially even on your house. So I'm going to show you what I do. You don't have to do what I do, but math does not lie, okay? Let me start out with this scenario. If you were a business owner, we're going to talk about business dollars and cents right now. I'm spelling sense, S-E-N-S-E. What makes sense? If you're a business owner and you had an employee that you paid $118,000 for, and that employee made you $535,000. Why would you employ somebody? Because you're hoping the employee makes you more than they cost you. So this is a great employee. You're paying them $118,000. They make you an extra $535,000. And so your net profit is what? $416,000. Is that good? Yeah, that's good. Would it behoove you to hurry and fire that employee? I don't think so. Why would you fire an employee that's doing that? But that's what most Americans do on their mortgages, okay? Stay with me. What if you paid an employee a little bit more money, $127,790, and that employee was a little bit better, and they actually made you $735,000. You paid them a little bit more money, but you came out ahead $600,000. Okay, which employee would you rather have? This one where you made $400,000, or this one where you made $600,000? Okay, obviously, I would rather have this employee. Well, let me tell you about a third employee. Here you have an employee that you're not going to fire. You're going to keep them employed, and you may end up paying them $403,000. Why would you do that? Because they're going to make you more money. They're going to continue to make you more than they're costing you. Why fire an employee that's making you more than what they're costing you? Okay? So they make you $1,242,000. Okay? You're coming out ahead $839,000, even though you kept paying that employee over the time $403,000. Was that worth it? I'm okay doing that if I come out ahead several $100,000 more than the good or better way. Would you agree with me here? If you do not agree with me so far that this is the best employee and don't fire them, then maybe you will understand why I am not in a hurry to pay off a mortgage, because I would be firing an employee making me more than they're costing me. Okay, have I got your attention? Here we go. First of all, let's just make sure you understand the difference between preferred and non-preferred interest expense. But this has really nothing to do with actually being able to tax deduct the interest on a mortgage. But as a tax strategist, the people that I counsel with, I always make sure that they can tax deduct the interest that they're paying on their home mortgage, okay? So it's not contingent upon can you tax. It still works even if you can't tax deduct it. But let's just simplify it. The difference between preferred and non-preferred interest expense, if I had an individual or a couple making $72,000, two of them here, one has $12,000 of interest they're paying on credit cards or automobile loans, and you can't deduct that interest because it's just consumer debt. You have $60,000, and that's what is available before tax. But you have to still pay tax on $72,000 of taxable income, okay? Now, if you have another couple and they're able to tax deduct that interest because they're making it qualified as a business expense, okay? This is why many people ought to have some kind of a business, okay? And I can show you how to do that. Or they can legitimately do it on a home mortgage if they understand how to do it correctly. But if they tax deduct the interest, now they only have to pay taxes on $60,000 instead of $72,000 because they had a $12,000 tax deduction. Now, in a 33% tax bracket, what's 33% of $12,000? That's $4,000. This is real money. So this couple over here is saving $4,000 of otherwise payable tax. This is real money. It's not paper money. So if you employ that money, okay, that's tax savings, you'll actually get out of debt quicker, and I can prove it to you. But again, most people that I meet with, I help them tax deduct the interest even on their home mortgage, even if they take the standard deduction. I actually help them make it more beneficial to take or itemize their deductions rather than take the standard deduction. Otherwise, I change the interest to business interest. See, for years, I have deducted the interest on my home mortgage off of my business Schedule C or my corporate tax returns because the IRS doesn't care if you borrow money and you happen to use your house as collateral for your business. It's tax deductible. So I always get to write off the interest I am paying on my real estate, especially my home, okay? Most people that I work with, they itemize their deductions because they're paying 10% in charitable contributions, tithing to their church. They're very charitable people. And so if your only deduction is home mortgage interest because you don't make charitable contributions or whatever, then maybe the standard deduction is more than itemizing. But most of my clients, it's no-brainer. They should itemize their deductions because they're giving 10% in charitable contributions because they've learned what is called the law of tithing, that you can actually, that paying 10% tithing to God, you'll end up with more money with 90% than you would if you kept all 100% and never gave back 10%. And a lot of people never learn that lesson. But anyway, most of the people I work with, they get it. And so they itemize deductions simply because they have enough deductions that exceeds the standard deduction. Okay, let me just put it at that. Now, what's leverage? It's the third miracle or marvel of wealth accumulation, okay? The first miracle of wealth accumulation is compound interest. Now, a lot of people think they understand that, but then they fail a little simple quiz that I give them. I won't do that right now, but compound interest is the first marvel or miracle of wealth accumulation. The second marvel is compounding your money tax-free, not tax earned or tax deferred in an IRA or 401k, tax-free accumulation. See, it was Einstein that said the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest, but it was Rothschild that said, no, compound interest tax-free. Tax-free is the eighth wonder of the world. Now, the third miracle is leverage, safe, positive leverage. What's leverage? It's the ability to own and control assets, like your home or your real estate or whatever, with very little or none of your money tied up or at risk in that asset. And people go, say what? It's to have none of your money tied up or at risk in the asset. The asset will appreciate or grow in value regardless of whether you have all your money tied up in it or whether you have none of your money tied up. It's separated, okay? You've leveraged. But see, the key is to leverage with full liquidity. What's liquidity? The ability to access your money when you need it. Most people who get into trouble is they leverage without liquidity. What does that mean? If they had $500,000, they go out and they buy five $500,000 homes, and they only tie up $100,000, 20% down payment, and they leverage, they borrow the other $400,000. But they're tying up all $500,000 of cash into 5 homes by making a down payment. That down payment is just sitting in there. They can't access it when they need it, okay? And the real estate can go down in value. They will lose. That's leveraging without liquidity. What do? If I buy 5 homes for $500,000, I don't take one dime and pay it in a down payment, okay? I've never paid a down payment for any piece of real estate that I've acquired. I satisfy down payments, but never with my own money. I keep the cash completely separated. And so I mortgage it, usually 80% loan to value, $400,000 on the first mortgage. The other $100,000, I'm using OPM. I leverage 100% and keep the cash over here in my right-hand pocket, liquid in case I need it. If it's trapped in the property, I have to sell the property or borrow it back. And when you need it the worst, it's the hardest to get. I stay liquid. Do you understand the difference here? Okay. Now, if you're wondering, well, how do you buy real estate with no money down? Oh my heavens, I have several YouTube videos on that. That's easy. Okay, that's actually easy. Okay, now, years ago, I came across an organization that they were selling a software package for about $800. Now, you wouldn't believe this software. It would actually tell you which credit card you should pay off first. the 18% interest one or the 12% interest one. Yeah, what I'm saying is this is not rocket science, but you would buy this software and it would say, okay, take whatever extra discretionary dollars you have and hurry and pay off the highest interest credit card first. That's a no-brainer. And then after you pay off that, take what you were paying on that and pay off the next highest interest credit card. And then your car loans. And then once you've done all of that, take all of that money and send it in extra principal payments against your home mortgage. This is not rocket science, okay? But people paid $800 for that software. And so in their example, they showed people, if they were disciplined using the software, that they would have their home mortgage paid off, a $210,000 mortgage is what they were using as an example, in 12 and a half years. Okay, now, they pay off the mortgage, sending extra principal payments to the mortgage company, and then after 12 and a half years, their mortgage is paid off. They're out of debt. That's okay, that's good. And then they said, well, take all that money that you used to pay and all those payments and put it into a tax-deferred IRA or 401k in the market. And if you'll earn 8% average rates of return, you'll end up with $987,000 at the end of 30 years on a 30-year mortgage picture, okay? Well, okay. Now, the problem is $987,000 in a tax-deferred IRA for 401k is not all your money. Only about 2/3 of that is your money because you're going to have to pay tax on that. So this is not really worth $987,000. That's not all your money. Only about $650,000, $700,000 of that ends up being your money, okay? So far, so good. Now, that's a good way. Now, I said, well, a better way, what I do, because I've learned this lesson the hard way, is I want to maintain liquidity. And so I will not send the extra principal payments when I pay off the credit cards and the car loans. I'm not going to send it to the mortgage company. Why would I kill an employee that's making me twice as much as they're costing me? The mortgage, if I'm borrowing at 6%, tax deductible interest is only a net cost of 4%. Why would I fire an employee that's costing me $40,000 a year on $1 million when I'm making $80,000 over here? That's twice as much as the employees cost me. Why would I fire an employee that's making me twice as much as they're costing me? Are you connecting some dots yet? Okay. And so I actually keep the mortgage high. Most of my life, I've had interest-only mortgages, okay? If you have good credit, you can get those. But nonetheless, at the end of 10.2 years, so 2.3 years sooner, I have enough money over here in this pocket because I'm putting the money over here compounding, tax-free, at a rate of return that's at least double, sometimes triple, the net cost of my tax-deductible mortgage, okay? Because I make sure I can deduct it, even if I can't deduct it. If I borrow at 6 non-deductible and I'm earning 8, okay, I'm still making, okay, far more than the cost of the mortgage. People say, well, you'll do all that for 2%? Absolutely. I'll hire an employee for $60,000 on $1 million mortgage. If that employee makes me $80,000, okay, what's the rate of return on that? An employee, I pay 60, that makes me 80. The employee's making me 33% profit. Okay, $20,000. I pay the employee $60,000, and I'm going to make $20,000 more dollars than what they're costing me. That's a 33% return. Hello? I don't care if I can't deduct it. So I have enough money actually over here in this right-hand pocket that I can pay off the mortgage. So I take the money out and I pay it off. Now I'm out of debt about 2.5 years sooner than the same amount of money to be out of debt in 12.5 years. And now I sock away the difference into a max funded IUL earning 8%, same rate of return. I'll end up with $1,245,000. Math doesn't lie, but this is tax-free. Right off the bat, would you rather have $1,245,000 net tax-free versus $987,000 that's only really worth about $650,000 after tax? It's twice as much money because of the tax-free nature of this one. Hello? But that's not what I do. Okay? Now, the best way, let me be simple, okay? Let me give you the milk first, and then if you can handle the meat, stay with me. In 10.2 years, when I have enough money in this right-hand pocket in my max funded IUL that I could take out and pay off the mortgage in one fell swoop, I'm out of debt in my mind. I have enough money here that any time I could take out the money and pay off the mortgage, but why? Why would I fire an employee making me at least double what it's costing me? So I don't do it because I am out of debt on my balance sheet. Are you with me? So if I then, without taking 200 grand out of there and paying off the mortgage, I keep that 200,000 over here in this pocket, compounding, I'll end up with $1,844,000. Math does not lie. $1.8 million, tax-free. Oh, but you still have a mortgage. I don't care. Deduct what I paid in interest on that mortgage. Now, this is a one-off. This is where I never refinance my property, which I refinance mine every 3 or 4 or 5 years and separate the lazy idle equity. And I always earn a rate of return higher than the net cost of a new mortgage. So let me reword it this way. Every time I refinance my real estate, I actually get on schedule to pay off on my balance sheet the newer, higher mortgages that I just took out faster than I was on schedule to pay off the older, lower mortgages. Because I'm putting lazy idle equity to work at a rate of return greater than the cost of the mortgages. That's how money works. If you don't understand this, bless your heart, you're missing out, but just do whatever helps you sleep at night. I sleep at night way better. If I had my house paid off, I would toss and turn all night because I've seen horror stories of you will lose money in a recession if you have all your money trapped in a house, and I'll prove it to you here in just a moment. So here's good, better, best. Now let's just look at the taxes. If I can tax deduct it, which 99% of the time, I help people make sure they can tax deduct the interest on their real estate, okay? Now, if it's non-owner occupied rental income real estate, you can deduct it all the time. It's your home that sometimes you have to do it in a creative way. Here's the amount of tax you'll pay if you hurry and kill your tax deduction by paying extra principal payments against your mortgage versus the better way, you'll still pay $83,000 of unnecessary tax. The best way I just showed you, this is how much you'll pay in the same scenario. Good, better, best, okay? I would rather pay zero in tax in that scenario. Good, better, best. Now, what's the differential? These are the same slides I showed you. If I pay $118,000 and get the house paid off in 12 and a half years, my difference is $416,000, but I just fired my employee. Why would I do that? By waiting, I actually could pay off my house in 10.2 years, and then I pay it off. If I fire the employee that I paid a little bit more money, I came out ahead more, but now this is all I made. If I keep the employee going, if I keep the mortgage going, because I'm making more than the mortgage is costing me, now I have liquidity. I can access the money over here with an electronic funds transfer phone call. If it's in a house, I have to sell the house or borrow back on their terms and prove there's a need why I should have it. It's not liquid anymore. I would rather have $839,000. So at the very beginning of this episode, if you understood why would you fire an employee that's making you more money, why would you get rid of a mortgage when you're actually making more than the cost of the mortgage? Why would you do that? So here's the difference between good, better, best. You could come out ahead $535,000 or $735,000 or $1.2 million. You choose. You choose, okay? Now, where does all this come from? In 2005, my best-selling book at the time, Misfortune 101, we went through 500,000 copies. It was a bestseller, and it rocked the boat so much in the financial services industry that 3 gurus were hired with the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago to do a white paper, a report on the trade-off between mortgage prepayments and tax-deferred retirement savings. They were using just tax-deferred, not tax-free accounts. And they came out with a 38-page white paper, and this was their conclusion. These were gurus. They said Americans are making the wrong choice if they're sending extra principal payments against their mortgages. They said mortgage overpayments were a misallocation of funds. Oh, really? They said if you changed your allocation of funds by not sending excess principal payments against your mortgage, but instead put it into just a tax-advantaged account, compounding, okay, that you would reap a substantial gain. They said my math was correct. They called my approach a rather conservative way of optimizing wealth. This isn't me. This is the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, okay? Who knows better, okay? So let me connect all the dots here. A lot of people do not understand how money works. So if I've aroused your curiosity, let's just make sure you understand. There's 4 things you can do with the money: spend it, lend it, own with it, or give it away. I double dip. I own and loan on the same asset. Now, banks, credit unions, insurance companies, if they stopped paying interest, they would wither up and die. In 2008, banks were borrowing OPM, other people's money, but they were paying less than 1% interest. Let's give them the benefit 1%. Every $1 million of OPM, other people's money that people deposited into banks, the bank only had to pay $10,000 a year in interest for that $1 million. They turned around when the federal government asked the 5 major banks in America to disclose where they had their Tier 1 assets for liquidity and safety. Guess where they had their money? In insurance companies, earning 4 or 5. Now, they were borrowing money at 1 and earning 4. How much more is 4 than 1? Don't say 3. They were making 40 grand. How much more is 40 than 10? Don't say 30. It's 400% more. Would you hire an employee for 10 grand if that employee made you an extra 40 grand? Would you buy a widget machine for 10 grand that made you an extra 40 grand? That is called a 400% return on employment cost or equipment cost. It's a 300% profit, but 400% return. Okay? What was I doing in 2008? It was a low interest environment. I had good credit. I was borrowing every $1 million I borrowed at 3 3/4 tax deductible interest. In a 33% bracket, it was costing me a net of 2.5 because I was tax deducting it. I was paying $25,000 a year for an employee in 2008. Okay, $1 million employee. Okay, I've got $1 million. I'm paying 25 grand to service the interest. I was making 10%, 10.07 to be exact, tax free. How much more is 10 than 2.5? 400%. The banks were making 400%. I was making 400%. We were both happy. You can't believe how many Americans do not understand that, and they missed the boat. Okay. Now, in 2007, because I have been my own banker for years, my personal residence was worth about $1.5 million. In December of 2007, I could see the writing on the wall. I knew we were headed for a major downturn. I went out and refinanced my home, 100% loan to value. The first mortgage, I borrowed at 4.5% tax deductible interest. In a 33% bracket, because I was able to write that off, it was a net cost of $45,000 in a 33% bracket. If you don't understand this, you got to learn how money works. So I was paying $45,000 out of my pocket for the first mortgage. Okay. Now I had a second mortgage of $400,000 that I was paying 6% interest on. But let me just show you the first mortgage, okay? Now, folks, if this was the interest I'm paying, and on $1.5 million, which is actually the average interest, if I'm earning 8%, and I was actually earning 10, I'm being conservative here. 8% is 120 grand, tax free. This is the first year because this is going to start compounding. This is simple interest. 120 minus 45. Would you hire an employee for 45 grand that made you an extra 120? I'd do that all day long. That's a $75,000 profit. Would you hurry and fire that employee? No. That would cost you money. It would cost me money to get rid of that mortgage. Now, my house actually went down in value in 2008 to $1.1 million. I had critics out there go, neener, Mr. Andrew, you're underwater. You owe more than your house is worth. You owe $1.5 million. Your house is only worth $1.1 million. Did I care? No. The mortgage lenders didn't care because I had the money. If I had left that $400,000 in my house, I would have been guaranteed a loss of 400 grand for several years. I didn't lose a dime of that because I wasn't trapped in the house. Are you getting it? That $400,000, if I borrowed that at 6% tax deductible interest in a 33% bracket, that's the net cost of 4. It was costing me for that employee 16 grand a year. If I'm only earning 8% on that 400 grand, that's 32,000. How much more is 32 than 16? 100%. Would you find an employee that's making you double what they're costing you? No. I could peel off 16,000 out of the 32 and make the mortgage payment. The mortgage companies were thrilled because I had way more money that I was earning than I needed to make the mortgage payments. They loved me. I was liquid. I was safe. I was earning a rate of return greater than the cost of the mortgage. People who had their equity trapped in their property and then got unemployed, they got disabled or lost their job, they got foreclosed on faster. Oh, I could go on and on and on. But folks, this is the magic. If you want to get out of debt the quickest, smartest way, I would recommend that you do not do it in any method where you're sending extra principal payments against the mortgage company, because it'll take you longer to get out of debt. You can get out of debt about 2.5 years faster. But then if you continue to earn a rate of return greater than the net cost of the funds, and if you don't know how to do that, I'll show you where you can learn. You're giving up hundreds of thousands of dollars of profit. That would be a bank paying everybody off on their savings accounts. Now they can't earn money because they're very happy to pay interest because they're going to make more than they're doing that, okay? Just like, why would you fire an employee, okay? So folks, if this is resonating with you, I would recommend you study my book, The L.A.S.E.R Fund. This is where I put my money to have liquidity, safety, and earn predictable rates of return, double or triple the net cost of borrowing OPM. This is how I become my own banker. And you can learn about it in this book. This is 300 pages, jam-packed with information. It's actually 2 books in one. This side is about 200 pages, 14 chapters with all the charts and graphs and explanations if you're a left brain learner. If you're a right brain learner and you learn more by stories, you flip it over to this one. This is about 100 pages, 12 chapters with actual, 62 actual stories of how this works. If you want to use your whole brain, then you read both of these books. Now, it retails on Amazon for, $20 up to $60. If you buy it on Amazon, thank you, but I'll gift you a copy for free. Okay, you simply go to laserfund.com or click on the link below. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling, okay? I require a little bit of skin in the game, come on. And I'll cover the rest of that, and I'll pay for the book. I'll fire out a hard copy to you via priority mail, and you can then, while you're in there claiming that hard copy, if you like to listen and learn or watch and learn, there's options for that too. You can register for a free educational webinar that we do on a weekly basis. You can even schedule an appointment to talk to an IUL specialist to see how a property-structured IUL, which I deem a L.A.S.E.R fund, which stands for Liquid Asset Safely Earning Returns, can help you become your own banker, okay? So that's my invitation to you. This is a game changer. Learn how money works.